Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode 7 of A Justice Seeking Church here at Shoreline Methodist Community. It's just good. It's just good that we can share, that we can listen, that we can have conversations, that we can be inspired to seek more of what God calls us to do. Today we have Inderjit. Inderjit's going to come and share some of his sort of insights and thoughts with us. Inderjit, welcome. How are you, sir?
Morning, great, thank you, lovely, and I hope you've had a good Easter. I've enjoyed it, but what a week we've had, with Pope Francis dying. An amazing man and a great model and example of good leadership, and he has certainly, upheld what it means to be looking for justice, seeking justice, acting justly, loving mercy, walking humbly. He's an incarnation of that.
Yes, and let's just hope and pray that continues as the discernment for whoever will take on that role, because I think you're right. He has spoken to the world with grace and truth, and we certainly need a lot more of that.
Yeah, he's upheld the people on the margins, and he's had a passion for, economic justice, ecological justice, ecumenical justice, and all those three words come from the same root, which is about the oikumene, the household of God, which is a house for everyone. And as they said, when he's died, he's gone to the house of his father, which has many rooms.
Yeah. And I mean, I think just seeing how social media, let alone the corporate media, but I think just the impact he's obviously had with people sharing their little favorite. And I must admit, one of my confessions is he shaped my Christmas Day sermon for the last 7 years. Since I've been back in circuit full time, I've always waited for that wisdom that he always shared in that sort of, in one sense, slightly prickly way, which I always used to love, with great diplomacy, but with a clarity of, we have to change, we have to love, we have to serve.
Well, he's upheld refugees particularly, and I have a passion for that, as you know, and I'm going to focus my thoughts on that again. Previously I've shared some thoughts on building a church of sanctuary, challenging hostility with hospitality. So I want to just take that a bit further today, and because boats are used, we've still got all the news about all these people come here on boats, and it concerns me that people don't have safe routes to travel by. If we had safe routes, people wouldn't be needing to go through those useless routes, falling prey to smugglers and criminals who exploit already hurting people and make money out of them. That's a great scandal of our times, and absolute, abomination. And we need justice around there. And I think justice for me means, in this instance, yes, Church of Sanctuary. That's about welcoming people when they get here, but we also need justice in the sense we need safe routes for people to travel and make their way here.
So Inderjit, inspire us, educate us. What do we need to hear?
Well, look, here's a boat. One of the first things I ever learned to make when I was younger was a boat. Here's made out of a newspaper. I can still make these boats. and it's a useful little exercise to do with people, But what we what we have before us in our world are boats upside down, that have turned over, and many people have drowned, far too many. And I want to talk about how that is also the roof of a church.
I
Uh,
love.
that's the shape of the
Yeah,
roof, well, of the roof of a house. I'm looking out of my window here. I can see the roofs in front of me. That's what they're like. That's the boat.
yeah.
That's the roof. And so, in a way, it's about things being upside down a bit, and how we construct justice in such a world and make things right again. So that's the reality of many people. Boats are turned over and they struggle. Loving, compassionate, welcoming responses to refugees arriving across our English Channel. Well, Church of Sanctuary is that more loving way to challenge hostility with protective hospitality. And so there are congregations all around Britain and Ireland. This evening, I'm looking at an assessment, at an application from another church that's applied for to be a Church of Sanctuary. So it's a kind of a growing movement, and I think they're lighting up uh, a more excellent way. I love that phrase from 1 Corinthians. You know, uh, that's the end of chapter 12, 1 Corinthians 12, the last bit of chapter 12. I want to show you a more excellent way, and it talks about love. And then the first verse of chapter 14, so pursue love. Um, and so what does that mean? I think all that our governments internationally seem to come up with in relation to refugees is how to stop people, coming here, how to put up borders and shut the doors. Our government here has gone as far as to say, if you come here, we're going to send you to Rwanda. You kind of
Yeah,
it's about scaring people. it's a it's about deterring people, and boats, are not only prominent in politics. It's a metaphor for human life and human struggle. When in the days of COVID, it's exactly 5 years ago that we were looking at COVID. People talked about all of us being in the same boat. You remember Pope Francis using that phrase 5 years ago, talking about how we're all in the same boat. And boats featured very prominently in Jesus's ministry. His followers were uh, from the fishing communities, and there were times we're told that when there was such a big crowd, he hadn't got space in front of him. He had to get on a boat
right.
so a boat became his pulpit, the podium from which he preached. And if you look at many churches, actually, a lot of um, inside of churches represent boats. Um, and an overturned boat is a tragic image. It represents harm and danger, but it also has the shape of a dome and a roof. And where does the idea of a boat come from in terms of representing church? I mean, it's the Ark, Noah's Ark, isn't it? We have to go all the way back. Many years ago, I read a book about models of church, and the book says there are two models of church. There are many, but here's two. One is the boat, um, and in that model of church, it's about all of us getting into the
Into
boat
yeah,
of, of salvation. That's our mission, is to call people to get in the boat. If you get into our boat, you will be
yeah,
safe. You'll get to heaven. Um, the other model of church is a movement, you know. And Methodists, we talk about being a movement, and a movement is about being on a journey, being on a pilgrimage. Okay, it's about being along the way of salvation, but there are two different ways of talking about it. So join the movement. Here's okay, churches together in England. Their logo is a boat, and the mast is a cross. You know, so it's what we use. And when you're sitting in a church, you're in a kind of a boat. So we talk about the nave. The nave is where the congregation sits. And from it we get the word navigation, you know. So um, not all churches, congregations sit in a circle. They sit in a kind of rows, and you're on a galley, on a boat, and we've all got to row together. We're on the way turn. So all right, so you get the picture. And we can't be, and the roofs are like that. So we can't have boats so prominent in the life of the church and not think about the issues thrown up and presented and held up before us by boats, by small boats. So, um, what do I want to say in this? I think I want to talk about salvation. I want to talk about safety. I want to talk about people being um, safe from harm and danger, and what role can churches play in building communities and cultures of sanctuary, protective hospitality, welcome, and safety. So, different strategies are held up before us. Governments come up with their strategies. What's our strategy? No. What do we have to say? What do we want to say to government? What's the vision we want to hold up? I've talked about Pope Francis and how he's held up a vision of compassion and justice and mercy. Well, what do we want to say? And um, there are different strategies being held up in relation to boats, and I've got a faith-based strategy. You know, the words of the bishop to the president in USA, who said, "Well, in the name of God, have mercy on people who are scared now." No, how can we show mercy and love to those who are most vulnerable? So, I've talked previously, Wayne, in great detail about Church of Sanctuary. So, I'm offering Church of Sanctuary as a model, as a response to hatred. Challenge hatred with hospitality. And Church of Sanctuary is a faith-based initiative, a call to prophetic witness, a call to seeking justice, hospitality as a challenge to hostility, the inclusion of all, valuing everyone's gifts and contributions. And in the end, it's about acting justly, loving mercy, walking humbly. So that's my that's my passion. That's my message for today. And I want to invite churches to look at how to engage with refugees in a loving and just and merciful way. And okay, I'm sure there are many other models for doing this. I'm offering the Church of Sanctuary as a model.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.